And welcome to another edition of Ask the AD. I'm Dave Horger. This is Greg Christopher, the athletic director at Bowling Green State University. And let's start with football today. Some people want to know about the Mid-American Conference and their affiliation with bowl games and how that all flows with the BCS teams and money,
Sure.
which is always an important thing.
Two different questions there. I guess first of all, our bowl games. The primary bowls have not changed. We still have three bowl games that are what I would call our primary contracts, and that's Mobile, Detroit, and then the Boise Bowl. Those three. The Boise Bowl is always the third choice. Always has third choice. Mobile and Detroit go back and forth every other year. This year it is Mobile's choice to pick first. So they don't have to pick the conference champion. They literally just get to pick, which team they want, which is part of how Toledo wound up in Detroit last year because the Detroit folks thought they'll sell the most tickets. So those are the three primary bowls. Everything past that, and if you go on recent history, we've been getting, 4, maybe 5 teams into bowl games. Yeah. Those come into what you call secondary contracts. And without having the whole list in front of me, that ranges from San Francisco, Albuquerque, Birmingham, Dallas. We have secondary contracts with probably about 5 or 6 different bowl games. And depending on if those conferences don't fill their slots, suddenly a MAC team can slide into one of those. So that's where they won't all come to fruition, and we won't have that many teams eligible either. Sure. But you probably will see somewhere between 4 and 5 MAC schools wind up in bowl games. Our 3 primaries plus a couple of the secondaries. Financially, I'm not going to get it at all into the contracts financially for the bowl games, but the BCS piece, because I think that was how the question was framed. The 5, I think it's 5, non-BCS conferences, so that's Mountain West, Conference USA, MAC, WAC, Sun Belt, all share a piece of the bigger BCS pie. Most of the money goes to the BCS conferences, but the 5 of us get a pretty significant portion, and the way that is divided, we essentially rank the 5 of us at the end of each football season 1 through 5. How did we perform? Regular season and bowl games. And so it's competitively, are you ranked 1 or are you ranked 5? And that determines what slice of money you get. At the end of the day, that chunk of money, even for the 5 non-BCS conferences, dwarfs what we get for the NCAA men's basketball tournament payout, the per share money. So that's why, even at a macro level, the big conferences, you're seeing so much emphasis being placed on football and all of these conference landscape and the movement. It's being dictated by football, and then football. And why basketball, in some ways, unfortunately, has taken a second fiddle. But so we have historically, I'm not trying to make this a longer answer than it needs to be, but anywhere from 3 to 5 is typically where the MAC has ranked at the end of the season and when that money allocation comes.
As far as the bowl contracts are concerned, they're negotiated by?
The conference, yeah. It's not a school by school. It's a conference by conference. And I believe, if I'm accurate, they're 4-year contracts. So every 4 years they're rolling over, and you might see movement a little bit from time to time there.
We've talked in the past about the Mid-American Conference being a conference where student athletes are participating as opposed to some other conferences when it's almost a feeding ground for the NFL.
Right.
We have a situation with Northern Illinois. As we are recording this program, they will be in Toledo tonight. This is Tuesday.
Right.
Next Tuesday, they're coming back here to play us. I would think that would not necessarily be in the best interest to the student athletes at Northern.
It's a balancing act. I'll admit that, and you're right. This is where you get competing interests, and it happens in all phases of life, or even business and so forth. But you're right. You talk about how student athlete welfare is at the core of everything that we do. Well, at the same time, athletics, at least at our level, oftentimes is used as a platform for institutional visibility. That's a big reason why why we compete at the Division I level. And part of those decisions we make then are these midweek football games, which are being done in every conference, to my knowledge now, maybe not the Big Ten, but I think virtually every other conference is playing midweek football games. Well, Northern got a bad draw, frankly, this year. Right, they've got to make 2 5+ hour bus trips week after week. Now, all that said, I mean, let's face it, football actually misses the least class of virtually any sport we have. So I don't know that while these games will be difficult for those players, those Northern players, if they are expected to go to class, after they roll in at 5:30 in the morning after both of these games, at the end of the day, what you don't often see are the basketball teams, the baseball teams that do that on a regular basis and miss a lot more class. But you're right. The core issue is you're always balancing the visibility piece of what athletics is bringing to this institution with student-athlete welfare, and are you making decisions in the best interest of the student-athletes? And in this case, this is one that's probably not in the best interest of those student-athletes.
Let's talk about attendance. A question that was submitted pertains to the attendance figures that the university provides after football, basketball, whatever the games may be. Are those tickets sold? What is that?
Yeah, it's I can't speak historically, but in the 5 years that I've been here, our manner has been consistent in that it's two numbers pieced together. The first is actual students that are at the game. Because students get in for free with their student IDs, that's an actual number. It's not a number that is tickets sold or anything like that. So it's actual number of students at games. The other number is tickets sold. And so that's where you're going to have, in some ways, an inflated number, because some of those people either don't come to games and that's usually the case in basketball, hockey, and volleyball. You might have some no-shows there. And in football, you've got, we have groups or companies, and even in some cases our foundation will buy tickets that we then try to redistribute to not-for-profit agencies to get people in the stands. But the fact is the number is, a little bit inflated, especially for some of the smaller games, because we've got that 15,000 attendance mark to hit. So the short version, again, is it's actual students plus tickets sold is how we arrive at the number you see in the box score.
One would think that attendance at soccer games will be going up because of the lights. Talked about the success of that in the early go, and the fact that the university now can host, as an example, high school games.
And we've got one tonight or tomorrow night?
Tomorrow
night, Jason says in his nomenclature here. Yes, the short version there is 2 alums and then a handful of other soccer alums step up in a very generous gift. We felt that we're the only, I believe, Division I school in the state of Ohio that didn't have lights for soccer. And if you're going to have those programs keep moving in a positive direction, today's kids and recruits are frankly used to playing at night, and it's one of those facility deficiencies we had to correct. And Gary, Nan, and a handful of others came together, almost $400,000 in gifts. Eric and Andy did a great job of helping corral that, and at the end of the day, we got the soccer lights. It was a great atmosphere. A couple times we've had games already. I think you've been out to a couple of those, and you're right. It now makes the field more flexible for us to be able to host high school and other events as well, like you've seen us do with some of the things. Once we got field turf, we could host high school football. We've gotten a little more aggressive with what we're trying to get into the Stroh Center. So being able to host those outside events not only helps with a little bit of extra revenue for athletics, but again, it's about institutional visibility. And when Perrysburg and Northview come here tomorrow night to play, for some of those kids, it's going to be their first or one of the limited exposures to BGSU. And down the road, when those families are considering where their kids will go to school, you'd like to think that those positive experiences at BGSU play a role.
Speaking of donations, the New Loves came through to help out with the hockey deal with the shop over there at the Ice Arena. What's an update on the Bring Back the Glory campaign and where we stand there?
I would say a good phrase to use would be that I think we're approaching the home stretch on that. You know, it's been, I don't want to say that it's been easy by any means. I don't know that, you know, large fundraising campaigns are ever easy, but a lot of people have stepped up. And between what we've raised for the facility and what we've raised for the scholarship endowment, I don't know the exact figure, but I know we're definitely on the downhill side of this. And knowing what I know with a couple of the gifts that are in queue, I don't think there's anything earth-shattering, but some really nice, generous gifts that are in queue and working toward that will probably be headed into what I would call a final stretch run here, as far as more of the grassroots and the grassroots gifts probably before you see hockey season close itself out. And let's wrap it up and move on. Keep in mind, there's also a third component there to this campaign that sometimes gets forgotten. There was the facility, there was the hockey scholarship endowment, but then there was also any gift credited to another sports scholarship endowment counted toward this campaign, with the idea that if we can take costs away from this area, we can put that investment back into the hockey program, and we've got some of that going on as well.
Anything else we need to cover, or do we have her done? I think we're good for this month.
Good for this month.
All right, we'll see you next
All right,
month.
thanks, Dave.
Okay, thank you.